so on.
Yeah,
So it should be
I
fun.
mean, that's kind of what we do here. Carlo, do you want to start us off here and do the
Yeah,
intros?
sure. I would love to start off with the intros. So, hey everybody, this is Carlo and taps for Sort of Hi-Fi, and this is which our fifth or something like that.
Something like
it's
that?
like one of the mid-single digit numbers of episodes. So,
Yes.
welcome everyone to join us. Today we have a most illuminating and special guest, and that is Mr. Nick Brown from SVS is joining us. So, Nick, welcome.
What's up, Nick?
Thank you very much, Taps. Thank you, Carlo. Always a pleasure talking to you. Usually it's on the trade show floor at a hi-fi show, so to be doing the virtual thing is a little bit exciting. We can cover some different ground than what we normally do at the audio shows.
We should probably do one of those noise-filled like live ones too. You know,
Absolutely.
where everyone will complain about the sound because it's just like echo fest.
Well, we bring the crowd, so there's always background noise anytime we're doing it. And then if we're demonstrating our hi-fi room next to the home theater room, there's usually Ninja Turtles or Godzilla versus Kong to compete with as well. So that's always a good time.
Oh, I guess speaking of which, then I have so many questions, but so I'm just going to start firing. Like when it comes to testing stuff out, even outside of a trade show floor, are there go-to movies that you're just like, I absolutely have to test this one when you're running out a piece of new equipment or something?
Absolutely. I mean, we have our reference torture tracks that we've sort of curated over the years. I think some of the earliest ones, Tron Legacy jumps to mind as one that, with the light cycle battle scene specifically was really a torture test. And then there's some that like, they don't sound really all that good, but they're just so demanding. What's the one with the oil rig exploding? And I can't remember the one.
It's like this sort of, is that the Wahlberg documentary thingy?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like just this scene of absolute chaos and pipes bursting and oil spraying everywhere and people screaming. And it's like painful to listen to, but it's such a demanding track that it really allows you to see if your subwoofers or your system can actually hold up to it. And then things like Super 8, the train crash scene. Again, these ones are painful. But then we like to find ones that really just use the low frequencies and the surround action to create that most immersive experience. And I think that's where we've came upon Ninja Turtles, the original one with Megan Fox. Well, not the original, but one of the ones with Megan
not the
Fox.
Vanilla Ice one, right?
No, not that far back. I'm not sure what kind of demos would be in there. But
have you ever watched that back?
You know what? I have not. I should probably. I remember seeing it in the theater. I guess I was probably like 10, 12 years old. But then all the Mission Impossibles, pretty much all the Tom Cruise movies. I don't know if he does his own audio.
Number
mixing
3,
too.
that is the one. Number 3 is the high watermark of movies for me.
Rogue Nation is really good, and I'm not sure which number 3, but like he does phenomenal sound mixing, or his team does. So we tend to pick them up. But I will say the most recent one that I just checked out the other night, which was absolutely incredible and will be in our listing, is the new Twisters. Like it's a little bit corny, but it's the same as the original. But the surround effects with it and the height effects with being in a tornado, and that's what these people are doing, just driving right into it. It was absolutely stunning. So I will be picking up that, probably the whole remastered series, because I think they have both films in the new box sets they're selling.
Do you guys ever run that beginning scene or 10 seconds for like Edge of Tomorrow just to be?
Yeah, we get requests for that, and it's like, again, it's just like, it's not much there. It's like but like people just like to see the walls flex and get that sort of visceral.
Every time I run
so
into you guys at a trade show and I pop into the demo room, Larry always seems to be playing this Rammstein like live music concert or whatever, and it just like everyone is just like, oh, you just see all these people sitting in these chairs with their like heads going like this to this Rammstein concert.
I mean, that's part of the fun though. We don't choose just like those perfectly curated like audiophile hi-fi moments. Like we want to say ahead of it, like this is not going to be your prototypical like hi-fi show demo, but what we're going to do is recreate the energy of being in a 80,000 person stadium with people screaming all around you, and the pyrotechnics and the shredding of the guitars and all the different effects that come along with the live concert experience. And so, if you can paint that picture sonically for people, it kind of gives them a flavor of that. And then you jump over and do, The Greatest Showman, which is a single female vocalist on stage. And, you kind of show that dichotomy. And I think it's a effective way to do demos that we found.
I haven't yet been able to visit you guys at a trade show, but when I do, I'm an unabashed bass music head. Okay. So, am I allowed to just come in and play some tunes?
We take requests. Not all brands do. We like to say, you know what? If our speakers don't sound great with the music and the movies that you watch and listen to, then what are we really doing here? So bring your torture tracks, and we will do our best to bring his
drum and bass library. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I found more great music though from doing, especially the MKII show, because there's such an eclectic mix of tastes when you're over in Europe. And half of it, I can't ever remember the names, but we add it to our Cobos playlist, and so it lives in there in perpetuity, and then we get to bring it out.
You guys had a great reaction, I thought, at Munich. I mean, it seemed like people were really into the new speakers and the new line and everything you guys brought, which was great to see.
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely, even up until a year or two ago, still viewed very much as a subwoofer brand. And I know, Carlo, we've had 2 full-on speaker lines. We have a very successful audio accessories line with SoundPath. But, speakers, we were still sort of not really well known in Europe. And I think with this new series, the way they look, the way they sound, and our dealers embracing them in retail has really elevated us as far as the high performance speaker game goes. And it's a competitive market over there. I was joking with another member of the press about, there's a UK speaker sound, and there's a Scandinavian speaker sound, and there's a German speaker sound. And there's a lot of sort of loyalties that go with it. We just wanted to make a, great sounding speaker for home theater, for hi-fi, whatever you wanted, and let the cards fall where they may. But it's definitely opened up a lot of ears and eyes for SVS as far as a speaker manufacturer goes with the new launch.
Oh, so go ahead, Tabs. Go ahead.
Sorry. Can I say, just not to suck up too much, but there was a purchase that I made, I think it was 2 years ago, that was pretty life-changing. I actually picked up 2 SoundPath wireless subwoofer receivers. One for, in my old house, the family room was just it was way too big for, our couch was way too far away, and it wasn't really set up for a good speaker system. And there's nowhere to really put the sub behind the couch. And so I hooked up the SoundPath to the receiver. The subwoofer was 20 feet away behind the couch. And it works flawlessly the entire time. And so I'm looking for a way to figure out how to connect subwoofer 2 here to just, why not, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but
you can
those
get
things work amazing.
Yeah, you get a single transmitter and 2 receivers, and you can actually run duals. I think you can run up to 5 or 6 subwoofers off a single transmitter. So that, adding a second or a third certainly wouldn't be an issue. But that's what our SoundPath series is all about. We have the traditional, connections, speaker cable, more long run speaker wire, isolation systems for our subwoofers. But we want to create solutions. For you, it was kind of eliminating some cable clutter and putting a subwoofer somewhere where maybe wasn't ideal.
Right there.
For some people, it's stop. Yeah, there you go. Stopping by
and the green tape to block the blue light.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So that's why they've become one of the fastest growing parts of our business, is just because they're real solutions. Excuse me. Our most recent one was a speaker level subwoofer adapter. We had a lot of people with vintage AV equipment that didn't have RCA outs. And so we basically created a high fidelity adapter that allows you to run speaker level into it and then output RCA into a subwoofer. So you can run that LFE channel or in, left, right RCA. And it's been a great solution for people who have some older equipment that doesn't have those RCA outputs. So we're always going to be looking at opportunities that exist for our customers to be able to add on to their systems with new accessories or solve problems. And that's what the adapter and the isolation system and this new speaker level subwoofer adapter are all about.
Can I ask one more sort of off, I guess, because you're talking about that, is So when it comes to like amplifiers and plugging us, like the most ideal scenario is to have like the subwoofer out connection. And then there's, I guess, can you use pre-outs as well, right? To a subwoofer? Is it just like one? Is it just the right traditionally, or do you recommend both? Using both?
We generally recommend both. You can run a single one into the LFE, but you can certainly run both as well.
Okay. And then is there like, does tape out work as well? Or is that like are there any connections that are no-goes?
I'm not sure about tape out.
Yeah,
I don't want to give false information there.
I don't think that would be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-outs for sure. The dedicated sub out and then preamp out for sure because they're volume controlled. And yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And now with the adapter, you can do speaker level. And then our higher end subwoofers, the 4016s, will also take XLR.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, that was my only one. But Carlo, you had something.
I was just gonna say, since we had touched on the new line and everything and the reception for it. So the new Ultra Evolution line, it's enough. It's like what, 2 towers or 3 2 towers?
3 towers.
I think a pair of bookshelves, right? Oh, 3 towers.
Yep, 3 towers. 3 towers, yep. 2 bookshelves, a dedicated 3-way center channel, our Ultra Elevation, which is a height effect or sort of multi-purpose surround speaker, and then, the center channel, which I mentioned. So 7 speakers total.
You guys have pretty long product cycles. I mean, you guys aren't putting out new speakers or new subs every year. So, I mean, how long has this line been under development for?
So the original Ultra series launched about 12 years ago. And if you have followed SVS, we generally take the approach of launching a flagship series and then taking a lot of that technology and trickling it down to lower price points. In this case, it was the Prime series. But almost immediately after launching the Ultra series and sort of figuring out what we were going to do with the Prime series, we started looking at what we could do from a technological standpoint to really upgrade the sound and sort of the entire experience with our new flagship series. And we did a complete reimagining. I mean, it wasn't just like, well, let's slap on a new finish, maybe try a different driver material or different driver array. So I think what most people notice is the cabinet architecture. And, we're not the first brand to do this acoustically centered time alignment, which essentially is taking all of the different drivers, aligning the sonic emanation point. So basically where the sound is coming out, which in the case of the mid-range and the woofers is that inner part of the cone. And in the case of the tweeter is in the outer edge of the dome, and aligning those in physical space. And essentially what that allows you to do is have the sound reach your ears at the exact same instant.
So that's why the cabinet is the cabinet. Like, actually, I have one right here. That's why the cabinet is like angled in the way it is, so that way when you're looking at it from a profile, the drivers then are all like on the same sort of, I guess, axis or whatever, or vertical plane. So the sound, on a vertical plane, that sound is all coming from you from each one of those drivers at exactly the same time. Then that's
right. And when you combine that with sort of the driver array, which is the tweeter flanked by 2 mid-ranges and 2 woofers, it creates sort of a point source effect where the sound is emanating from a single point in front of the speaker. And all of this together really just gives you rock solid imaging. Like I was mentioning, the phase coherence is just absolutely pinpoint, in terms of that sound hitting your ear from each driver at the exact same instant. And it's something where, again, I want to give credit, I think, to Teal was one of the first brands to do it in terms of a consumer speaker, and other brands have done it as well, but we did it and made it at a more inclusive price than it had been available before, because really it's one of those high-end design features you've seen in like a Wilson audio, and we're about 1/100th of the price of that. So it was trying to bring, again, a visual form factor that had a real acoustic purpose to it, and have that be sort of one of the defining features of this new series.
Very neat. Now, as I was mentioning, I have the top dog of the Ultra.
I'm shaking my head because I'm super jealous, but that's the only reason.
of the Ultra Evolution series right here. This is this big tower, and it's what's the name of this thing again? I always keep forgetting. I always screw this.
It's the Ultra Evolution Pinnacle.
Ultra Evolution, but the UEP. the use.
There you go. We've already had lots of abbreviations. One thing you'll learn about SVS is we love our long-winded names, and this new series is no different.
You are not the only
company. But actually, if you hold on one second, as I turn this thing around, I actually have it on furniture movers, so it makes it nice and easy.
Oh, smart! You put it on like a dolly or something.
There we are.
There you go.
It's got like this. It's got two of these things down here. These aren't passive radiators. These things are actual working drivers that are wired into the crossover like the front drivers are, and deliver bass, but it's coming out the rear. So what was which is like an unusual like design feature, something you don't really see. And so what was the whole reasoning behind doing that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Carlo. And a lot of the execution there is owed to one of the subwoofers I know you guys have tested, the 3000 micro. What we've built in that is called a force balance woofer array. And so when you talk about having, dual 8-inch woofers in the top and the bottom of the cabinet, inside the cabinet, you're essentially having them move in, out together, and you get a complete cancellation of any kind of vibrational energy, any kind of resonance. So obviously you're having basically a completely inert cabinet because any sort of that motion is canceling each other out. And this gives you basically a clean slate from which to produce low frequency output. Now outside the cabinet, when you have a pair of loudspeakers like this towed in, you have 8 woofers all firing in different directions throughout the room. And that gives you nice even bass response, much more authoritative bass, obviously because there's more surface area for the woofers to be able to move air. It gives you a broader frequency response. Those go down to about 23 hertz, maybe 22 hertz, depending on how you have them.
I would call it sadistic bass, but that's just me.
Yeah, and again, it's like, it's something you can control based on, some positioning and with, tuning controls. So you can certainly adjust it. But we know a lot of SVS customers, they want that authoritative bass. They want it to be room filling, but they don't want it to overtake the space. So that's why we did this force balance array, because again, it allows you to have incredible output, but have it be controlled and also fill the room so you can kind of smooth out some of those peaks and nulls.
Forgive my ignorance on the line. Do the bookshelves also do that? Like, do they have a...
No, they're rear ported, but the 3 towers all have the corresponding woofers on the rear of the panel. The bookshelf and the smaller Nano are ported. And, so they have still very impressive bass response for their size.
Fingerprints, Carlo.
That is the gloss.
Do not spit on the speaker.
No. But having these hooked up in the system, and like just anecdotally, if I could say this, having these hooked up in the system, bass is always the hardest thing to get right in a room. I mean, because there's so many variables with your room, and everyone's different, obviously, in terms of the space they're listening. But having these rear woofers has just been great, because it's been, at least in here, this room it's not very bass friendly, and it's been this setup has helped a lot to help dial in the bass and actually get it to work really well in this room, better than a number of other speakers I've had in here. So and other speakers that have had either been bottom ported or ported in other strange ways. But this is a really neat idea, and at least in my setup, I'm finding I'm able to get the sound I want and able to adjust things a lot easier, which is great. So,
That was one of the goals. I mean, we wanted it to be forgiving of, the different rooms. Not very few people have a perfect, acoustically treated room, or, the shape that really enhances the sound. And, I know you guys know how important that is to a system. So we wanted to give people the ability to make little micro adjustments that would have a significant impact on improving the in-room bass response. And that was one of the real reasons why we decided to go with this force balance woofer array. But it doesn't stop there. We wanted to make sure also the tweeter design had a significant step forward. And that was a big emphasis for us too, because if you have, great imaging and great sound staging and great bass response, but you don't improve some of that clarity in the upper octaves, then you haven't really done a full-on reimagining of the speaker. And so, what we found is, we had a very, very capable aluminum dome tweeter on both our original Ultra series and our Prime series. And it's great. I mean, for what for what those prices are, it's certainly a very capable tweeter, like I was saying. But, I think there are certain people who have, issues with the metal dome tweeter, whether they feel like it doesn't hit those super high notes with the airiness and the effervescence that they want. So we really wanted to find a solution that kept all the benefits of an aluminum dome tweeter, but also improved it. And so we used this vapor deposition technology that's relatively new in the audio space and applied a layer of diamond carbon essentially to the outermost part of the aluminum dome tweeter. And what this did was give it much more rigidity without adding much more mass. So it stays super lightweight. It keeps all those properties that make an aluminum dome tweeter great, but it raises the breakup frequency to almost 40,000 hertz, which is beyond the level of human audibility. So it eliminates any of that harshness, the distortion, the sibilance that some people may perceive with a metal dome tweeter by adding that rigidity. But even more so, it extended the low frequency extension of the tweeter as well. So it blends more smoothly with the mid range. And we did look at a lot of materials like beryllium, like ribbons and things like that. But again, in knowing a lot of the SVS customers, they like to, I wouldn't say abuse because that has a negative connotation, but they like to play at volumes and really.
They like to tax their speakers. They like to challenge them, shall we say.
Exactly. And the benefit of this design over something like a beryllium, which can be a little less robust, is it will have longevity. It can take that abuse and not sweat it and not break down over time. So we found it was the best balance of both worlds. And we were able to maintain timbre matching with the original series as well by having the aluminum dome tweeter. So even though it extends higher and lower, it still is timbre matched.
You can kind of mix and match between the series and not have it sound funky or anything like that.
That's exactly right. You get those seamless transitions, and you just get a little bit better response from the new Ultra Evolution series.
Which one do you have at home?
So I still have the Prime Pinnacles behind me, but I have the Ultra Evolution Towers on order. We were waiting for the Black Oak to get back in stock because I just prefer not having the gloss. I love the way the white looks, but it was a team decision in my household to go with the Black Oak. So they will be arriving soon. And that's the smallest of the three towers because I've heard all three of them. And frankly, with dual SB4000 subwoofers, I just don't need that extra low frequency extension of the bigger models. And so that's what I'll be getting here within the next week and a half, I think, is when they're slated for delivery.
Amazing.
I don't need the extra low frequency extension, but I want it anyway.
I know.
If you can get it, get it.
That speaker looks like it might fulfill part of my dream of just having a massive sub array. So
it'll get you as close as most loudspeakers out there for sure.
Are you guys in terms of finishes? I know you have the gloss black, and then you have the black. You were saying oak look, and then the gloss white. Is there any future plans for doing like a walnut or like a wood grain or a veneer of some sort, or is that even possible with the way the cabinet is designed?
Anything's possible for a price, Carlo, as you know, in the high performance audio industry. But, we've talked about it. We've certainly gotten quite a few requests. The black gloss is by almost 2-3x the number one selling finish. This is the first time we've done a full series of speakers in the white gloss. And we're seeing in 2-channel setups specifically, and a lot in Europe, that's become very popular. And then I think the Black Oak is great for the home theater crowd because, again, some of them don't like the reflective properties of the gloss, when they have the lights out and the cinema fired up. So there's a purpose behind each one. But to answer your question, we'll never say never. And I think as more people ask for some of these premium wood finishes, and maybe we'll do some kind of special edition, it's certainly on the table.
That'd be cool. I just can imagine this in like a nice walnut, and I'm like, oh, that'd just be beautiful with the black. I mean, just personally fantasizing here, that would just look beautiful, I think. But that's a different, that's limited edition. Great idea.
It is funny though.
I'm going to throw this out there too, because it is an extra massive cost to manufacture other cabinets. But would there ever be, and this is probably too down market for like your top tier speakers, but like even like DIY vinyl wraps or something like that you could like offer almost, so like they can kind of cut it out and try their hand at just rewrapping their own speakers. Is that like ever a thing?
You know, Taps, I'm a huge sneakerhead. My son got me into it. And so I understand that sort of like individualized culture and wanting to have like the look that no one else has.
Yeah.
I think you kind of said it at the beginning. It becomes a quality control thing at that point where, you know, if you're expecting people to DIY, obviously they're going to live with it. And if we do it ourselves, it's not as permanent, not as robust. It doesn't, you know, have quite the same properties as a hand applied piano lacquer, you know, done in 9 layers. Yeah. So I don't want to say never, because it's my fantasy to be able to tell people, yeah, you can put a Superman wrap or a Batman or whatever you want on that. Like, here's a link, you know, just order it up and then
get some Addy colors going in.
Yeah.
But it's like customing shoes is way easier than speakers.
Totally. It really is. And so I think it's something where we'd have to find the right partner and, you know, the right quality of that sort of aftermarket care in order to really make it work. But you know, we've talked to some different automotive sort of refinishers in the Youngstown area to kind of see what the capabilities are, because they do a lot of like custom work, but nothing has come to fruition yet. So something that, you know, again, maybe as a pet project, but I don't think we'll dump a ton of resources in it quite
or like
yet.
A custom Pimp My Ride speakers sort
That's
of edition.
Right. That's my dream. It's like, you know, with the sneaker culture as big as it is and people paying or, you know, entering lotteries for the right to be able to spend $500 on a pair of sneakers. I know there's that demand for sort of individualism.
Maybe that would be a cool, like a trade show one-off where like you get like a car vinyl wrapper to like wrap one pair of speakers and it gets maybe raffled or auctioned.
Or you have something done like in like a British racing green or like something, or one of those you know, really famous racing colors or something, and have it set.
Is there a favorite car in the SVS office?
Well, I will say our CEO Gary is probably the biggest motorhead of the bunch, and he is a big Porsche aficionado. I think he's had a lot of different Porsche models. He's still got a Boxster, I don't even know what year it is, that he talks glowingly about, more glowingly than his children even. So I think we might have to edit that part out. I think I'll be the first one to tell you that. But it's I would say that's probably where you know, his passion lies, is with Porsche, and he's, you know, he gets their magazine and everything like that. So there's
I could see one of these things like wrapped in carbon fiber. That would just be insane looking.
On the other end of things, because I just got done with Sonos Faber Lumina speakers, and they leather wrap their speakers. It looks pretty badass. But like, since you're a sneakerhead, if you could like potentially wrap a speaker in your favorite shoe, because Jordan Brand did it with it did about a decade or two ago, where they had like their like bags or like tote bags built out of the Jordan 1s. So like the sole of the shoe was the bottom of the bag, and they kind of built up the design out of it. I thought it was awesome. Is there a shoe of yours or a dream shoe of yours that you would love to wrap a speaker or finish a speaker with?
So this is going to sound completely absurd, but my favorite pair of shoes are called the Turdunkins, and they're Jordans, but they're based on, you know, like the turkey with the chicken with the duck stuck inside of it. So there's all these different textures on it, like the featheriness of a turkey, but then like the smooth like belly of a duck, and they're like multi-paneled. I wish I had them up here. They're in my closet upstairs, but it would look completely absurd on a pair of speakers. But that would just hit home so well with me, in terms of just like sort of the specialness of it. And then actually, if I move my camera over here, you can see I have this other pair of sneakers there, and that a little acrylic box on my subwoofer. Those are called those are just Air Force One, white Air Force Ones, but they were actually hand painted by an artist in Boston called Sway. And they were made for a restaurant called the Kowloon in Boston, where my wife and I had our engagement party. So I bid on them at an auction and got them. And then a couple of years later, John Cena wore them at WrestleMania, and now they're on eBay for like $5,000 because they only made like 50 pairs of them. So I will not be getting rid of them, but I guess that would be my second choice. And those would probably look a little bit more natural than the Turduncan finish. Yeah.
WWE is to blame for like jacking up the prices of sneakers. Like I think Roman Reigns wore a pair at WrestleMania and I was like, oh, I want those. And I looked at them. I'm like, oh, I can't have those because it's like one of one.
Yeah, they've got a good thing going with some of those sneaker apps as far as exclusives. So,
apparently, to expose my fandom for wrestling, but like apparently they wear different shoes for like run-ins and then also walkouts. So if they're going to run in and clobber someone with a chair, they wear a specific shoe. But then if they're doing like their walkout or something, they wear a different shoe.
You're making me feel old. I remember the days of seeing Andre the Giant at Maple Leaf Gardens in just a regular wrestling
and they
match.
just had the lace-up final boot.
You just got to start rewatching. I reviewed the B&W 706 package with WrestleMania 40. It was amazing.
It's a perfect fit. I'm sure that was right up the alley of what most B&W fans are going to be enjoying on their speakers.
Probably not, but I mean, we're breaking new ground, right?
Absolutely.
We want more people to enjoy this hobby, and wrestling fans like good sound too.
Eclectic
I'm sure the boys in Munich will be happy to know that.
Yeah. It's taken off.
Oh man. Well, actually, since Cedia is going to be coming up, kind of reeling this back in a little bit, but. Since CD is coming up, and I know you guys are going to be there, obviously. CD is more of like a custom install show, and I know you guys have the elevation speakers that go with the line. But now that you have this new line out and all the development and stuff that's gone into it, is there any future thoughts about doing more of a custom install series of speakers like in ceilings? I mean, I know you guys have the in-wall subwoofer now. Any thoughts of doing like a more of a like in ceiling or in wall or custom install style speakers with that will go with this line?
Garlo, that's probably the first or second most requested model that we have. And, our whole product development methodology is we want to create, speakers and series that really sort of define their price class. And I think with in-walls, it would be more difficult to do it in that scenario. And beyond that, the amount of resources it would take, because it's very difficult to launch an in-ceiling or in-wall speaker like a single SKU. You generally have to have like a 4-inch, a 5-inch, a 6-inch, 7th, so you have a line for your dealers to really accommodate different kinds of installs. And for us, it's not something that's on our immediate roadmap, just because one, I don't know that we would come out with something that could blow away the competition. And two, just it would take away from some of the other projects that we have going on right now that I think are more in line with what SVS is really all about. But certainly, like, we know the demand is there, and there are a lot of people who's like, well, I just want SVS in walls, in ceilings. I don't care if they're better than Snap AV or whatever other brand that I'm looking at. So it's certainly something we're kicking the tires on, but I can't say there's anything imminent in the future. Subwoofers, on the other hand, we came out with easy to retrofit, easy to add to new build, dual 9-inch subwoofer with really powerful amplifier with the app control. And so we were able to come in to the market with something that for the price certainly could outperform almost anything out there, but it was also great for retrofit and new installs. And so it was definitely a defining product for us in that category. But speakers, I think we're a bit of a ways off before we really get into that game.
Now, with that 3000 micro, is there like a 3000 mini or medium coming as well?
Well, we do have the SB3000, which is the sealed cabinet version, which to me probably delivers the most bang for the buck of all the SVS subwoofer models. It's right in the middle of the lineup. So that, we have the micro, we have the in-wall, we have the SB3000, we have the PB3000. So those are the four models that make up the 3000 series, which is right in the middle of our lineup.
Are they dual force canceling? Those ones?
In the in-wall? Oh, in the micro, yes. There's two 8-inch woofers. They're both fully active, and they're same kind of technology that's in the speakers. They move in, they move out together, so you could pretty much balance a nickel on them. Even when they're playing at reference volume, they're that inert in terms of the cabinet.
But no, I meant the larger, I guess, the SB3000?
The SB3000 is a single driver.
Okay.
So it's a single front forward-facing driver. Yeah.
Okay.
Any new plans for? You were saying some future products and stuff you guys are working on. Any stuff beans you can spill or any like?
No. You're going to be at Cedia. When is this going to air?
I'm definitely going to Cedia.
With my editing prowess next month, I don't know.
We'll have some things to talk about at Cedia, which I think will be pretty exciting for a lot of people. I think the way we do product launches, we treat them as 6-month, year-long processes. So we're still very much launching the new Ultra Evolution series, which came out in like early April. But we will have some crossover between that and our next big announcement. So if you stay tuned at Cedia, then you'll be able to find out, and we'll always have a few accessories coming out as well. But yes, more goodies are on the way, and it's we're in a fairly privileged position because I know there's been a lot of development teams that have been cut from a lot of the other audio manufacturers. So I think you're gonna see a slowdown of new technologies and new products, which is really a shame. But I'm hoping with things sort of getting back on track in the industry and the economy in general, you're going to start seeing more investment into that product development game. But we're not slowing down. We're going to break into new categories in 2025. CES will be a big show for us. So we want to make sure we're continuing to lead the charge with some new products.
With kind of that sort of folds into my next question is like, what's the biggest issue you kind of see with like in audio and hi-fi right now? I mean, I know a lot of people talk the economy and there's a lot of, you're mentioning some folks getting let go in the industry and sort of like a little bit of retraction happening and stuff. But what do you see as kind of one of the biggest issues right now?
So I wish I had the silver bullet, because then I would just share it with everyone in our industry to be able to turn things around. But it's interesting. You see at the very highest end of our industry, it's actually fairly healthy. The people who are, really that upper 1%, and selling to them, they're doing okay. And then you have this whole swath of, Bluetooth speakers, mono speakers, little cheap solutions. And there's just so much competition there that it's hard to really stand out, even if you're an established manufacturer. And then you have sort of the middle of the road. And I would say that's kind of where SVS operates. We have products that compete with those higher echelon models, but we're priced at a point that is a little bit more inclusive. But there are certain thresholds where it's like, well, I'm not even going to start my journey unless it's a $50,000 speaker and a $25,000 amp. So we're not going to win that person over. So I think what I'm trying to get at here is like, there's still this stereotype that high performance audio has to be astronomically expensive to get into. And I think that causes a lot of people to shy away from even trying to enter into the market. There's this contentment with the simplicity of a Bluetooth speaker, something you can carry around the house, or even something like a Sonos, obviously, which provides you that sort of whole home solution, which is very much a minimalist look and design. And I think somewhere along the way, the value of having traditional passive speakers that can really provide that level of immersion, low frequency extension, the full experience of imaging and a stereo setup, like that passion for that has sort of gone away because it's been replaced by one sort of this judgmental attitude of, well, if you're not spending this much, you're not really an audiophile. And on the other side, it's become overcomplicated. Well, unless I can just put a battery in it or plug it in and start streaming Bluetooth, then that's too complicated for me. And I think both of those things are misconceptions that we as an industry have to address. And when you can kind of address those and you get to these people who clearly do care about fidelity, I mean, people are buying turntables. I don't know how big this CD resurgence is, but certainly CD quality is better than Bluetooth, and you need something to play at those CDs from. So I think with this convergence of sort of people's desire to get back into vintage audio or more tactile experiences, if brands like SVS and others can key in on that as some of these consumers grow up and add more expendable income, because these are aspirational purchases, they're not things you need. Everyone needs a speaker or an audio system to listen to music, but you don't need a $5,000 pair of tower speakers. So if you can build up sort of that, decomplicate it, and then build up sort of the spiritual, emotional connection that it allows you to create, and then also make the hobby seem fun again. I think part of it, there's half the world loves, the fidelity aspect. Another half loves the sort of hobby of building an incredible system and the steps you take and the tweaking to get 1% more better fidelity out of it. And I think making that sort of more appreciable to people and respectable hobby, I think will help turn things around. But until that happens, I feel like we're sort of middling around, and I think we're trying to fight that fight to bring some relevance back to that whole culture.
Carlo and I had an idea a while back, and I'm going to pose the question to you too. Outside of all the audio shows, do you guys ever do the home show?
No, not like a K-Biz or something like that. Like that's
I mean, I'm in Canada, so we have like the Toronto home show or something like that. But like, I'm sure the States has way bigger ones.
Yeah. So
but was there ever thought to like just forgive my interruption? To like, when they have like a model home there, or they have a variety of like small like
environments set up with
like prefab homes or environments set up or homes. Yeah, but normally there's like plants and couches and whatever home automation they have. But like, it would be cool to have like a home that's fully just kitted out in like kind of mid-tier SVS, where like, or any speaker brand really. And then just like, you can go in there and you can just like, they're showcasing the home and the prefab, but there's also amazing
you have a system
sound in
just
there.
Like playing music, just whatever, it could be anything. And
there's one in the bedroom, there's one in the living room, there's one in the kitchen. It's just kind of the whole thing's hooked up, and it doesn't have to be like interconnected. It could be, but it could just be like kind of middle of the road. Just because at like the home show, for example, it's like, I believe the stat was something like, I think it's like the wife normally makes, or like the major purchases, or picks the major purposes for the home. So like clearly like the wife sees like a value in getting a 75-inch TV, right? But if they're like, oh, this sounds way better than the crappy sound coming out of it, like maybe there's a pull.
Yeah, we've done like regional home shows with some of our dealer partners, where they'll go in and they'll rent a booth essentially and set up a system. It's not really like a full prefabricated home, but they give you a sense for, here's an outdoor speaker, here's a traditional hi-fi system, here's your more multi-room sort of Sonos setup. Yeah, and I think that is an effective way to, like you said, kind of reach the other decision maker in the household who may not be as tuned into what's possible. And then aside from that, we do consumer events with our actual retail partners, where we'll engage the local press, we'll engage some of the outer market media to try to get people to show up to this, to the retailers who, a lot of these people may have never stepped inside a worldwide stereo or a gramophone in Maryland.
These folks aren't going to Expona, or they're not going to Florida or some sort of regional audio show.
Exactly. They're not going to travel, but if it's right around the corner and there's, free food and beverages, and you get to have these experiences and possibly win a stereo system, we found that to be a great way to prospect on behalf of some of our local partners in the retail game, to get people in who have never been there. So I think that sort of guerrilla grassroots approach is definitely has a lot of value taps. And, whether we're going to shell out $100,000 to go to a, national home show, that's where sort of it's like, is the return going to be there when most of these people are looking at kitchen sinks and, washers and dryers and, vinyl siding? I don't know. But I think as a collective, if our industry did a better job of trying to become relevant in that decision-making sort of show environment, then we could really see some gains from it, in the short and long term.
Yeah, that entrance fee is brutal.
But I bet the entrance fee to get into like one of the major audio shows is not. I mean, it's got to be a little ouchy as well. I'm sure Expona isn't cheap to get into, nor Cedia, nor some of the other regional shows too. I mean, that's gotta.
I do have a guerrilla tactic that might work. I'm just going to throw it out there. If you know any real estate agents in the area, maybe just outfit one of their open houses, because then there's no entrance fee.
The Parade of Homes, there's similar organizations to that, where they'll set up a showcase home, and they're not even really looking for monetary, whatever investment. They just want, give me a bunch of gear that I can put in this home and show people what's possible. And we've done that too. And so, again, it's like, you get certain people in there, it's like, well, I'm never going to have that. And then other people are like, oh, that's pretty badass. And they'll, allow you to sort of purchase it as a a whole setup and work through us. We haven't seen a ton of success with that because, again, I don't know that people buying a new home, their first thought is like, well, I need a hi-fi system. Yeah. And actually the recent CTA research that came out, really ties home audio purchases to the purchase of a new TV. It's like, I just bought this TV. I need something better than the speakers in it. And that's a lot of time the trigger for the mainstream consumer to invest in audio. And so I feel like, rather than a new home purchase, a new TV purchase may be a better way to sort of, find those signals of buyer intent.
Yeah, I'm throwing out suggestions with no research whatsoever.
That's all right.
I'm more so curious because it's kind of getting like consumer audio into the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like more of a, in my head, again, with sample size of one idea, where it's just kind of like, it's kind of just getting it out in front of people more. Like ever since I started just reviewing audio, I've always been the audio nut for my circle of friends. But now all of them have a stereo system now, just because they're just like, oh, it actually does sound better. And I kind of want one now. And maybe that's only affecting change in like 6 people. But like, I wonder if like over time, over time, it's kind of like that exponential growth, that kind of like, that was it, the rising tide floats all ships sort of idea.
What's that conversation we've had, like Taps, you and me, after going, there's only so many shows you can go to, and after a while it kind of gets to be a sort of a, and there's only so many new product launches a company can make, and it's like, how do you get, a company, the audio awareness out to other people in ways that, aren't an audio company might not think of or might not usually pursue, and it's just trying to, I hate the term think out of the box. It's overused, but that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is how finding ways for audio companies to think out of the box to get their visibility out there more to folks that, who might not otherwise be thinking of the next speaker purchase.
Yeah, without redlining your advertising budget is the big one.
Well, one of the concepts I love that I know has been popularized in some of the bigger cities, Miami and LA, is this idea of a hi-fi bar. And I don't know if you've seen any of these. They did a list, the Gothamist, of like the top 9 hi-fi bars in New York. I'm like, there's 9 hi-fi bars in New York. And, I have this brewery that's about a mile and a half from my house, and I've talked to the owner before. And I'm like, you know what? It's not a bar, but like you do on a Tuesday night, you bring in a nice pair of speakers or just have them there permanently and say, we're going to do all Billy Joel songs tonight, or we're going to play the entire Dark Side of the Moon, or whatever it is. Try to get people in and listening on a real hi-fi system or running an entire vinyl album to kind of bring that nostalgia back and to kind of give people a sense for the fidelity they're missing out on with their soundbar or with, their little Bluetooth speakers. And to me, that is a way to really hit people, not only because they're drinking, because they make, purchasing decisions sometimes that may not be fueled by the greatest level of rationality, but it's also giving them a fun
alcoholic duress is the best, though, right?
So you kind of play off both angles, but I love that concept, and I would love for SVS to have like a string of 20 different hi-fi bars throughout the country all running our stuff, who are random Tuesday nights playing different albums,
or just own all the breweries in the area.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
I know.
There's plenty of breweries in Ohio.
Like, I wonder even if
all over the place.
The first thing I thought of, because you were talking about like the SVS Micro being able to put a dime on it and have it not move. But I imagine for like some of the bigger subwoofers that aren't force canceling, like if you did put a dime, it might move, right? So the first thing I thought when it was brewery is like, what if you just stacked glasses on it and then just made bets on like what sound pressure level will just destroy this glass tower or something like that, right?
Is it live or is it SVS?
Yes.
Blind listening.
Man. But that the SVS experience at your local brewery or bar, I mean, the whole
take my beer money
sort of trendy thing has been like some of those vintage bars with like vintage tube equipment and vintage gear of all sorts. Like, who says you can't do it with like modern gear or like with SVS or anyone else? I mean, what the heck?
No, I think the appeal is listening to an entire album. Very few people do that anymore. But there's iconic ones that I think would bring people there, like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood, Sex, Magic. Like, I'll come listen to that entire album on a hi-fi system and drink some beer. Like, why not?
Or if like, like a local band shows up and they always have like a terrible audio system? What if like, you know, like local band shows up and they're just playing through SVS stuff, and it's just like, oh, this sounds way better, you know?
It shows the audience how bad we really are, or whatever. Oh man.
Only limit is our imagination. So, but that's the kind of stuff that, I like to think about because it ties, a couple of my favorite passions together, drinking bourbon and listening to music and, going out and hanging out with people. So
I was going to ask, but I wasn't, but now since you broached it, what's your flavor profile of choice and what's your go-tos? And
so I like bourbons. I'm actually, I love old fashions. Every time I travel, I have a colleague of mine, Dan,
bump right here.
and we taste old fashions all around the country. I have this like library in my phone that makes me look like a complete lush of like 200 old fashions that I've had. But I love Eagle Rare is one of my favorite bourbons, as well as Russell Reserve. So those are two of my favorites. And then my like entry level, if I'm just making old fashions for a crowd, is the Evan Williams 1776, I think it is. So those are my bourbons of choice for sitting around when I'm having a good time.
That's
Very
awesome.
Nice. Very nice. I tend to find people who are obsessive about audio tend to be slightly obsessive about some other things too. So yeah.
Yeah, you got sneakers and booze and
Yeah.
I know. No,
it's awesome. No, this is great.
Yeah. My son turned me onto the sneakers. That was totally his fault. We wear the same size shoe, and
that's amazing.
Oh, you got to get these, and then he would just take them off to college. I'm like, what the heck? Why did I even buy these? So, but now I can borrow his, so it's a trade off.
And if he's ever if River's ever bad to you, you could just take a picture of a shoe that he won't wear on your foot. And be like, I'm going to go for a walk right now.
He's like, those are my dust collectors. Take them off. Sorry, you're not home.
Oh, man. That's great.
Or just do a shoey with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Carlo, are you aware of the shoeys?
I'm not aware of the shoeys. No. I think now I'm really feeling old.
So I'm going to use my sandal. This shouldn't be in my office, but like essentially if you have a running shoe in I think it's Australia, New Zealand, what they do is they will pour a beer into said shoe, spit into the shoe, and then drink from the shoe. Sometimes it is most of the time it's a stranger's shoe.
That sounds like a way to catch a disease.
Yeah, I think that's rooted in like rugby culture, which you can imagine how some of those rugby boots, the kind of patina they have on them.
That sounds like a really harsh test of your immune system.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh God. Oh man. So yeah, I think I know Taps. We had a couple other questions we wanted to ask, like some what's your favorite song of summer?
Oh, this is a tough one. Well, I have two that I'll bring up. One is I think sort of a basic one that a lot of people would say, but it's the Summer in the City by the Loving Spoonful. I think that one I got turned on. It was the Die Hard with a Vengeance.
That was the opening.
And I remember watching that in the summer, and I was like, yeah, this jam. And then the other one is a cover of California Dreaming by the punk band Pennywise. And that one, it's just a different vibe from, the original. But I've always loved it. I've heard it first on a punk compilation CD called Survival of the Fattest with a PH. Yeah. And they were all punk bands from Fat Records. And that was one on, and it just stuck with me as one of my songs of summer.
Nice.
That's dope. Now, along with that, because, is there like a song that you just like love, but you're just really embarrassed about?
So I don't know that people know this song, so maybe I shouldn't be too embarrassed, but it's like my hype song. It's
Nickelback.
I mean, I do Nickelback. I'm not I don't hate on them. I don't throw too much shade. Same thing with Creed. Like I've had people argue with me about like the merits of Creed and Nickelback and whether they're actually shitty bands or not. And I don't have vitriol towards them.
Yeah.
But this song, it's called Heavy Cross by the band called Gossip. It's actually like a female vocalist. And I had heard it. I don't even remember the first time I heard it, but it just spoke to me as like a hype song to get me like fired up. And then I saw it on a perfume commercial with like Charlize Theron. I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe this is mainstream. So Heavy Cross by Gossip, give it a listen and you'll want to run through a wall. That's my recommendation.
But sometimes you just got to clean your house to it. Is that?
No, that's not my house cleaning song. That's my hype song. That's what, like, if I want to get fired up. I'm all 90s hip hop when it comes to cleaning the house.
Ooh.
Like, De La Soul, Wu-Tang Clan, Tribe Called Quest, Outkast. Like, that's what I want to clean to. Gets me motivated and, you know, keeps my my spirits high when I'm scrubbing toilets.
All right. That works for me.
That sounds legit. That's all right. That's all right. Oh, man.
But I actually think we may want to do a house cleaning playlist. We do our own little audiophile happy hour live streams on SVS a couple times a month. And, you know, we've done best road trip music. We did a playlist. I did best music for me to mow my lawn to. That one was interesting. A lot of Willie Nelson and songs about grass, stuff like that. So that one was kind of cool. And then we did, you know, best songs you want to just immediately crank up to 11. But I think cleaning the house would be one of those sort of unorthodox playlists, you know, that I'd like to do. I think the last one we did was Summer Barbecue, which, you know, there's a million of those, but I don't think there's a lot of house cleaning playlists.
You should also do 3 o'clock in the morning at a club, like the club ender. Like, what is the song that you want to hear at the end of the night?
All right.
The last call playlist.
All right. There you go.
There was one that went around on my Facebook by a former DJ, and he just kind of like posed it, and it was interesting what you got. Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably some that are a little bit more like low key, like bringing the night down, and other ones are like completely trying to, you know, get that last big hurrah. So that would be an eclectic mix, I imagine.
Yeah. Biddy McLean would probably be my one. Walk Away from Love. That's like, yeah, some nice reggae going.
Solid.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I think I'm trying to think about anything else we can. The big one, I guess, personal preference, completely biased. Are you a ported or sealed guy?
So I'm sealed all the way. Always with duals. I always need to have duals, but I have the SP4000s here, possibly being upgraded soon. I just, you know, I like a little bit more transient bass. The musical nature of them lends itself more to, you know, my listening preferences. So that's where I turn to for my my subwoofers. And I just feel like they're the best of all worlds. Although I will say the ported, you know, with SVS, you can plug the ports and, you know, change the tuning frequency via the app so you can get that sealed experience. But I also like a little bit more compact, you know, I got to put my sneakers on them. So they tend to provide a better platform for that as well.
All right. And then on top of that, what got you into this whole thing? Like, what was the driver to get you into audio?
Yeah, my parents were big music fans. They had an extensive vinyl collection, and they had, you know, I think what most people had, the sort of central unit that had the dual tape decks, they had the turntable on the top, the little equalizer, AM FM radio, and then, you know, the two cabinet speakers on either side. So they were constantly spinning vinyl, you know, when I was growing up. A lot of Pointer Sisters and Elton John.
My kind of people. All right, I dig that.
Yeah. And so that sort of planted the seed. And then when I got to college, you guys might have had this experience or heard about it, but the white van. I don't know if you know about the white van. Yeah. There were people in a white van who would hang out in, like, you know, places where college kids were. And, you know,
sorry,
you go to the grocery store. No,
my head was somewhere else.
No, not that white van.
Yeah, I know.
Other white van.
The one that hangs out where kids play. Sorry.
College students, I should say. And so essentially, I should clarify here real quick before people form any impure thoughts. They'd open the back of them and they'd have all these like big PA speakers and be like, yo, we just got these at some warehouse or blah, blah, blah. They'd have some crazy backstory. And it's like, they're normally $700 a piece, but I'll give them to you guys for $100 a piece. And my roommate and I, you know, my roommate had more money than I did. So he was like, oh shit, like, yeah, I got this receiver. Like, we could totally hook these up. And, you know, it turns out this was their whole marketing strategy, was to sell these, you know, overpriced PA speakers that, again, maybe they were hot, maybe they weren't. But they did play extremely loud and, you know, minimal distortion, just not a lot of the sort of definition and articulateness that hi-fi speakers have. But, you know, in living with those for my college years, it sort of planted the seed. And then when I got a job, I happened to work with a PR agency, and the first client I ever had was Krell. So I went from speakers into a van to like $50,000 monoblock amps. And that truly allowed me to appreciate, you know, what great sound could be. and sort of the passion that people had for it. And that just sort of, again, planted the seed a little bit deeper for where I am now.
Set the expectation bar pretty high there.
Yeah, I know. I just remember the first time I'm like, wait, so this is how much? And okay, all right, well, let's give it a listen. Then it was like, oh, okay. And you kind of get an understanding of, the scale, the diminishing returns and all of that, and just the passion that, again, people have for this, both from a design and a listening perspective.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Man. So I think, does that sort of cover it, or did we have anything else we wanted to go over?
I mean, aside from me begging for subwoofers, I think I'm good. Like, say
the word.
And we're trying to keep this to about an hour. Me and Carlo normally go to like 2 hours, and we're just like, oh no,
like, no one's gonna listen to this. Oh man.
We can do some outtakes. I can flub some things up, but I think you guys make this easy. It's a lot of fun. I love what you guys are doing for the industry to kind of raise the awareness around this fantastic hobby. So we're there for you in Tops. You need to get some extra low frequency reinforcement. Just let me know. We'll work something out.
Sweet. That's just send me everything.
Okay, you got it. Get your dual stacks of PB16 Ultras.
Oh my God, can you imagine? I have to move first, but yeah, probably
Okay.
that.
And I should also mention that one of the, from the secret standpoint, want to thank you, Nick and SVS, for donating a subwoofer for our 30 for 30 anniversary giveaway, which we really appreciate. And that's gonna be
awesome.
Well, congratulations. I know John has worked hard in building it and what it was in the early days, and certainly Carlo, you've done a phenomenal job here over the past several years. So it's a big achievement to hit 30 years, and I hope we're having this conversation in 30 years.
Hoping we're not
now.
too moldy and oldie for that for that to happen. But no, thanks, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
It's very cool, and it's.
Well, in 30 years, for sure, they'll have properly self-lacing shoes, right?
I would
hope so. Yeah, hoverboards and all of that.
Perfect use for AI.
No doubt.
Self-lace your shoes. Oh man.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Nick,
I really
thanks,
appreciate
man.
this.
We really appreciate having you on and stuff. And anyone who's in the market for a subwoofer or some badass speakers, please go check out svs.com.
Yes.
svssound.com.
If you want good glasses, go to SVS.
Okay. Good to know.
Oh.
It can help your eyesight and your ears. No, it's all good.
So svssound.com. Is there...
They'll find us. I have no
Whenever
doubt
I plug
they'll find
SVS
us,
into the
putting
search bar,
SVS.
it's always you guys that comes up first. So
That's right.
Yeah. Well, just because I stalk you guys online.
Oh man. Very
Awesome.
cool. Thanks so much for joining us, Nick. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy listening all.
Awesome.